Hey there, Schetter here for ESFI World, recapping groups E through H of the GSL Code S round of 32. The week got off to an ugly start in Group E when MMA smashed Gumiho with a proxy marine tank build, but Gumiho made up with it for a brawl of a game 2 by a slew of Hellions, Drops, and Banshees. Gumiho eventually lost focus and let his army be drawn into tank and Thor fire, essentially losing him the game and the match. The second match was a pretty standard Zerg mirror between Zenio and Yu-Gi-Oh! Zenio won game 1 with a 10-pool Baneling all-in, then out-macroed Yu-Gi-Oh! In a long tech-heavy game 2. In the third match of the group, MMA continued to display his dominance with a convincing 2-0 win over Zenio. Poor Zerg player never held a supply lead all match as MMA's micro and multitasking beat him in battle after battle. MMA's 2-0 victories made him the first player to advance 4-0 out of the round of 32. The losers match between Gumiho and Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the ugliest of the week, both having mistakes in unit control, engagement selection, and strategy. For instance, Gumiho had been leading his army with ghosts, which get fungled and chomped on by Ultralisks. At one point, Yu-Gi-Oh! Had over 7,000 unspent gas with no minerals after having made bizarre unit compositions, such as morphing almost 20 Overseers at the same time. After winning a very solid Game 1 in the deciding match against Gumiho, Zenio seemed to fall apart, losing 2 games due to unusually poor defense and execution. In Game 2, Zenio let nearly 20 drones fall to 4 elevated Hellions, bunching them up almost like a gift for Gumiho. In the final game, Zenio did not react to a bunker at his natural, and lost to early 2-axe pressure. In the first match of Group F, JYP just did not seem up to the crafty SC's level, breaking down in both games once the Terran applied multi-pronged pressure with drops. Genius handed teammate Dong Regu an unexpected one-sided loss. In Game 1, Genius abused the Zerg army with crucial force fields, leaving DRG unable to properly defend his third while sneaky zealots ripped apart the Zerg main. DRG showed unwise aggression in the following game, but Genius calmly defended and marched across the map for the win. Genius continued his rediscovered brilliance in the winners match against SC. Going far into the typical PvT late game, neither player was able to gain an upper hand until SC flooded the field with ghosts, nuking from 4 ghost academies. However, SC made a grave mistake, which led his ghost to fry against Colossi and Archons. In the next game, SC produced Hellions from a reactored factory that were easily handled by Genius's 3-gate Blink Stalker Rush. Genius laid some serious bad manners down in good-natured celebration, dancing his Stalkers in SC's base and refusing to kill his SCVs and structures until SC finally GG'd. JYP didn't fare much better in his losers matchup against DRG, posting a disappointing result in his first match since moving to Evil Geniuses. The first 2 games in the Decider featured a pair of very aggressive builds by SC, a proxy 2 racks into 2-port Banshees that didn't work, and a double reactored Hellion build that did. In the final game, DRG quickly teched to a huge herd of early infestors. Gaining map control, DRG then rolled in with a maxed army of Ultralisks and Cracklings that bowled over SC's tank and Ghost Light Bio army to elevate DRG to the next round. Newcomer Brown looks set to continue the strong play we saw in last season's Code A, as he took on Alive in a pair of deep, complex PvTs. Brown slipped when he decided to send his entire army on a suicide mission far into Alive's base. Defenseless, Brown lost to the counterpush. In the second game, Brown won a hard-fought technical game on the strength of a +1/+2 upgrade advantage, and allowed him to eke out a close victory. But in the last game, Alive dropped into Brown's main and immediately depowered all of Brown's buildings, ending the match. In the second match of Group G, Marine King 2-0'd Happy in a messy, rough and tumble match of the type that Marine King loves and usually wins. After such a solid match against Alive, Brown seemed to collapse against Happy. In the first game, he attacked into a well-defended choke for no damage, and in the second, he decided not to cancel a faxed Nexus after scouting 2 racks aggression, causing him to lose 2-0. The first game of this final match between Alive and Happy came down to 1 poor engagement, but it was Game 2 that was truly riveting. Alive went for a crazy nuke push, landing almost a dozen nukes to inch incrementally forward. The game came down to a massive Viking battle that Happy was out of position for, and Alive's wall of secret missiles quickly ended the game. Keen and Nada had to play in the first round for the third time in 5 tournaments. The 3 games of the match played out with typical TVT skirmishes, coming down to a pair of major mistakes won by each player, giving Nada the 2-1 win. The winner's match was a showdown between fresh talent and vast experience, and it was the new player that proved his worth in a very interesting series. In Game 1, Parting pulled off the nasty 7-gate that Nada's bio could do little against. However, Nada wasn't going down that easily, teching to Banshees and tanks, ridding of Parting's Colossus Rush. In the final game, Parting defended Nada's Thor Marine Banshee all in with both flavors of Templar. Parting was the only Code S newcomer to advance into the second round. Puzzle finished by sweeping the rest of the group, 2-0ing Keen and then Nada in the process. He won by utilizing mostly greedy builds with 3 Nexus First Gateway heavy builds and a Void Ray Rush thrown in against Nada for good measure. The last match marked the 3rd time in 4 Code S seasons that Puzzle advanced to the second round, and the 3rd time in a row that Nada was knocked out in the first. That's it for the round of 32. Advancing out of Group A, we've got Ganzi and Jakji. Out of Group B, MC and Supernova. Out of Group C, Nesty and MVP. Out of Group D, Oz and Curious. Out of Group E, Group F, Genius and Dongregu. Group G, Marine King and Alive. And Group H, Puzzle and Parting. That'll do it for this Code S Roundup. Catch us on Twitter at ESFI. This has been Schetter for ESFI World.